This is a past tutorial going over how to use our virtual conference tools on the day of the conference. To access the conference, both residents and the conference's moderator can go to Pass and then Curriculum to access the daily calendar. The calendar will automatically open to today's date. Since today is February 28, 2021, the calendar is open to that day and shows that there is an ankle and tibial plafond fracture conference today from 8 to 10 a.m. Be sure to check out our other tutorial video on how to build out your conference schedule if you have not done so already. The conference will show by default, but if you want to access your regular daily reading, you can do so by clicking on the Daily Reading tab to the right of the Conference tab. The first thing to show is the pre-reading. This is what residents are expected to have already completed by the time of the conference. Following the pre-reading, you will see the sections of the conference that your chief resident or faculty member built out ahead of time. Since our conferences are completely customizable, your conference section may look different, but most conferences start with question-based clinical problem solving. To go through this section, the moderator will click on the exam test code on the right and select Teaching Mode. Here you will be able to see all of the questions included in that exam. The questions can be filtered by subspecialty, topic, level, and more using the arrows at the top. The moderator will choose a question to go over by simply clicking on one of their choosing. The moderator will either read the question or call on a resident to read the question. They can go through any related figures associated with the question by clicking on the camera icon next to Figures. The moderator will then ask the residents to complete the question if they haven't already done so. A resident can find the exact question by either going to the exam through their past daily calendar or by searching the individual question by typing the question ID you see here into the search bar on the OrthoBullets website or Bullets app. As residents answer the question, you will see their name flash green and disappear on the left here. This is our audience response system at work. You'll see the names of all of the residents in your past program under Pending, and as they answer the question, you'll see them move to the completed column, which you can toggle back and forth between. Above Pending, you'll see the option between Last 24 Hours and Historical View. Last 24 hours will show who from your past group has and hasn't answered the question in the last 24 hours, while Historical will show who has and hasn't answered the question at some point in the past. We recommend selecting last 24 hours because that will give you a better sense of which residents are active and engaged in the conference at the moment. As you can see here, 15 residents in this demo group have completed this question in the past because after clicking on Historical, many of them flash green and move to the completed column, but none of them have completed it in the last 24 hours. Once a majority of the residents have answered the question and gone from the Pending to Completed tab, the moderator will select an answer and click Submit. You will then see two bars under each possible answer choice. The top bar shows the percentage of people who selected that answer out of all of the people who have ever taken that question on OrthoBullets. So for this question, you can see that 2,001 out of 2,283 people on OrthoBullets, or 88%, chose the correct answer. The bottom bar shows the percentage of people who selected an answer out of only those in your past program. As you can see, 14 out of the 15 residents in the past group that answered this question, or 93%, got this question correct. If you hover over this bottom bar, you can see which 14 residents chose that correct answer. If you scroll down, you can see the explanation for the question and the references supporting it as well. You can click on these article references to see a pop-up of the abstract if you want to go into them more in depth. You can also review the topic that the question comes from or review just the tested concept, which narrows it down even more specifically. To get to another question, you can either use the forward and backward arrows on the top right to move between questions, or go to the top left and select Back to Question List. Once you're done reviewing questions and are ready to move on to the next section of the conference, you can click on the X in the right-hand side to return to your calendar view of the conference. Next up in this conference is the case-based clinical problem-solving section. We'll present the first case by clicking on the title of the case on the right. Since we access the case through the conference, it will automatically take us into presentation mode. You can go through the case starting with the history and background information. To navigate through the case, you can either click the forward and backward arrows in the top right or jump to different sections of the case using the four icons in the middle section of buttons. To go through the images, you can either use the forward and backward arrows in the top right again, or go to the left and select the images you'd like to see by clicking on them. You can also zoom in and out of the images by using the plus and minus buttons under the image. Once you get to the polls, you'll see it is similar to the question-based clinical problem solving in that it incorporates our live audience response system. An important feature with our polls is the ability for the moderator to select in advance which ones they'd like to go through. The beauty of our case-based learning is the ability for programs to focus on the controversial or coin-flip clinical decisions that cannot be easily learned through QBanks, and thus maximize the faculty's role in using their expertise to explain why they would pick one feasible solution over another. Our importance A and B cases have about 8 to 10 polls each, but some of them are uncontroversial and not worth precious conference time going over. The moderator can exit out of the conference via the X button in the bottom right, go to the polls, and tag the ones they want to go over by selecting the check circle in the top right of the poll. For example, it is not entirely clear in this ankle fracture case whether the treatment should be operative or non-operative, so poll number 2 would be a good one to go over in conference, as well as poll number 3. Once the moderator has tagged the polls they find most interesting and worthy of covering, they can get back into presentation mode by selecting the presentation icon at the top of the case. Once back in presentation mode, they will check the checkmark above the forward and backward arrows to turn on the tagged poll feature. Once they get to the poll section, only those pre-selected polls will show, so in this case, poll number 2 and 3. Answering the polls works the same way as answering questions in the previous section. Once residents answer the poll, their name will flash green and go from pending to completed. Once again, we recommend selecting last 24 hours as opposed to historical in order to get a more accurate sense of who is paying attention and participating in the conference. Also, like the question-based clinical problem solving, we include the case ID in presentation mode so residents can quickly access the case by either getting to it from the conference schedule in the daily calendar or simply by typing the case ID into the search bar on the OrthoBullets website or Bullets app. The moderator can either pick an answer and submit it or click on the histogram in the top right in order to see the poll results. Similar to the question-based clinical problem solving, each answer choice has a blue bar on top showing the data from all OrthoBullets users who have answered that particular poll, and a green bottom bar showing the data from just the residents in your past program. You can hover over this green bar as well in order to see which residents chose an answer. Focusing on these more controversial clinical decisions that don't have a unanimous correct answer among the thousands of surgeons who examine that case are what leads to a more fun and interesting conference, and allow for quality teaching and discussion to occur between the experienced faculty and their residents. The other sessions in our conference, such as Skills Lab, Journal Club, and didactic presentations, can be gone over by clicking on the content from those sections in your conference. Since the moderator will be sharing their screen, everyone will be able to see either the content there, or they can follow along by clicking on the content from the conference via their own daily calendar on their phone or computer. This concludes this tutorial on how to use our past conference tool. Please reach out to the OrthoBullets team if you have any questions or if you have feedback on ways to improve our conference tools. If you have any questions, please email info@orthobullets.com or call 650-656-7165.